Version. This indicates that we should devote ourselves wholeheartedly to God alone, with all our hearts, all our minds, all our souls and all our strength. No human relationship can stand in the way of that devotion. We learn from Jesus' teachings that God is called Father, because He is the Creator, the Sustainer and the Provider for all of us. And do not keep striving for what you are to eat and what you are to drink, and do not keep worrying. For it is the nations of the world that strive after all these things, and your Father knows that you need them. Instead, strive for His kingdom, and these things will be given to you as well. Luke 12:29-31. New Revised Standard Version 100. Development of the Christian doctrine. Children, by choice, if you devote yourself to God, He will make all things work for your good, as only a divine Father can. We know that all things work for good for those who love God, who are called according to His purpose. For those He foreknew He also predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son, so that He might be the firstborn among many brothers. Romans 8:28-29. New American Bible. The Epistle to the Philippians shows that we are God's children as a result of our free choice. We choose to be children of God by doing His will. So then, my beloved, obedient as you have always been, not only when I am present but all the more now when I am absent, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. For God is the one who, for His good purpose, works in you both to desire and to work. Do everything without grumbling or questioning, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God without blemish in the midst of a crooked and perverse generation, among whom you shine like lights in the world. Philippians 2:12-15. New American Bible. Here is a final example of the choice we have to be children of God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Matthew 5:9. New Revised Standard Version. Jesus as the Son. 101 verses indicating exclusive sonship. In the Gospel of John there are 4 verses that normally are translated to indicate that Jesus is the only Son of God. The most prominent verse, and the most frequently quoted, is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that He gave His only Son, so that everyone who believes in Him might not perish but might have eternal life. John 3:16. New American Bible. There are only 3 other verses that refer to Jesus as the only Son. They are John 1:14 and 18, and John 3:18. And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen His glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. John 1:14. New Revised Standard Version. No man hath seen God at any time, the only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, He hath declared Him. John 1:18. King James Version. Those who believe in Him are not condemned, but those who do not believe are condemned already, because they have not believed in the name of the only Son of God. John 3:18. New Revised Standard Version. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark and Luke never unequivocally state, Jesus was God's only Son as John does. This seems quite significant when we realize that the Gospel of John was the last Gospel written. According to the translators of the New American Bible 1970 edition, the Gospels of Matthew and Mark were written shortly after the year 70 AD and the Gospel of Luke is dated to 102. Development of the Christian doctrine. Approximately 75 AD. The Gospel of John was the last, written between 90 and 100 AD at a time when we know the doctrine of Jesus' divinity was already well established. Bishop Ignatius's quote at the beginning of chapter 4 demonstrates this fact. Gospel of John. In chapter 1 we discussed who actually wrote the Gospel of John. Because of its importance in the present discussion, let's recap. In their introduction to the books of the New Testament, the 1970 translators of the New American Bible present the widely accepted theory that the Gospel of John was written by someone other than John, probably a disciple, and then edited later by another disciple Ibid, p. XXXV. The same translators make references to inconsistencies within the Gospel of John. These inconsistencies were probably the result of later editing that introduced additional materials. Other literary characteristics are noted in the same introduction, characteristics like the developed theology and very dramatic scenes, which argue against a theory of the Gospel being authored by an eyewitness to the events it presents. Ibid, p. XXXV. In other words, the Gospel of John was written not so much to present the historical facts about the life of Jesus Christ, but to present and explain already established dogma. Translators also note special problems in translating the Gospel of John because of its technique of repetitive phrasing that makes uncomfortable English. Ibid, p. XXXV. In John 1:14 and 18 and John 3:16 and 18, the words "only Son" directly contradicts the numerous assertions that all righteous people are sons of God, and the biblical references to others, like Israel, as God's firstborn son. As mentioned before, apparently Paul himself did not believe Jesus to be God's begotten Son. In Romans 1:3-4 he explains that Jesus was descended from David according to Jesus as the Son, 103 the flesh, and then was declared to be Son of God as taken from the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible. The 1970 edition of the New American Bible translates the above word declared as made and has a footnote indicating it could also be translated as proclaimed. Whether Jesus was made, declared or proclaimed the Son, research clearly indicates a different kind of sonship, one we all can strive for. It is interesting that only 2 verses before the description of Jesus as God's only Son in John 3:16, the Gospel calls Jesus Son of Man. In fact, this whole section of verses needs to be examined together. Jesus is speaking with Nicodemus, a Pharisee leader. And just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him may have eternal life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that everyone who believes in him may not perish but may have eternal life. Indeed, God did not send the Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. Those who believe in him are not condemned, but those who do not believe are condemned already, because they have not believed in the name of the only Son of God. John 3:14-18. New Revised Standard Version. If these are the actual words of Jesus, as the passage seems to indicate, why would he not say that the world might be saved through me and those who believe in me are not condemned? When I first checked Wikipedia online a few years ago, http://en.wikipedia.org wiki John_3:16, retrieved June 8, 104. Development of the Christian Doctrine 2011. It gave the original Greek for John 3:16 along with a literal translation emphasis added. For in this way God loved the world, that he gave the unique Son, so that all the ones trusting in him would not perish, but have eternal life. John 3:16. Wikipedia, June 8, 2011. On the same day, the Olive Tree Online Bible software at http://www.olivetree.com cgi-bin-englishbible.htm, which was release 1.19, June 2007. Retrieved June 8, 2011, showed that in all 4 verses of John that call Jesus the only Son, the literal translation of the Greek word normally translated as only might also be translated as unique. Note that neither Wikipedia nor Olive Tree currently offer unique as a meaning for the Greek word transliterated as monogenes, but other references do. These include Strong's Concordance, Helps Word Studies, and Bart Ehrman. Ibid, p. 162. Calling Jesus unique is very